Hello everyone and welcome to my coloring corner. Today is Wednesday and I know typically I do these videos on Thursday. However, I do have a very important doctor's appointment tomorrow, so I will not be able to do it tomorrow. So we will do it today because I'm not going to bow out on you again in 2 weeks in a row. All right, so we're working out of Wish You Were Here. We are still working with the Brute Funer Square pencils. Wish You Were Here is a coloring book by Teresa Goodridge, published by Creative Haven. All of the pages are drawn by Teresa Goodridge. So the page we're working on is this one here. The great thing about the Creative Haven books is that they are perforated, so you can take them out. Now, what we're going to be working on is we're going to be working on reflections. So as you can see, I'm going to move this one over here because we'll be talking about that one later. As you can see, there's the buildings in the background there, and then the sky and the clouds and whatnot. And as you look at it from the water view, the building is reflected in the water, so are the clouds as well as the other pillars here. Now, when you have a reflection in water, it elongates it a little bit. So it's a mirror image of the object in the water. So, for example, if somebody was coming out of this door here, it would show here. These windows are here. Now, it's not a duplicate of, well, it is a duplicate, but it does have different properties to it because of the fact that the water is fluid and it's moving. So you will see differences if you look at something that is mirrored in water. You'll see different ripples, you'll see different elongations, you'll see different things in the water, details not as clear, that sort of thing. So that's one type of mirror image. Another type of mirror image, of course, is in the mirror. So when you're drawing something that has or coloring something that has a mirror in it, you can mirror the image from one to the other in the mirror. This image itself, before I mirrored it, didn't have a reflection in the mirror. And that really, really bothers me. So I put a reflection in there. Now I'm trying to find, I think I used it for scrap. Basically all I did is I took my light board and I put it underneath the page, duplicated the page, flipped it over so that it was looking back at her instead of, looking away from her. So that's how you do that. And we will talk more about that on another video. However, this book, the Wish You Were Here book, doesn't have a lot of mirrors in it. So we'll do the mirror image in water from this book, and then we'll look for another book that has a mirror in it, and we will deal with the mirror reflections instead of the mirrored images, if that makes sense. All right, so I'm going to zoom you in and we're going to get started on this. Like I said, we are still using the Brute Funer squares for this page, as well as any others that we're going to do. So what we're going to concentrate on is we're going to slowly color each area of both at the same time. I know that's a little scary, kind of freaks me out a little bit as well. Because sometimes duplicating coloring on top and bottom can be a little bit more difficult when adding a little bit, because we've got to add a little bit of spacing in there so that we can color in the watercolor. Now it is going to reflect a lot of the color that we're using because we are using different browns and golden colors. So the tops of these buildings here, all these little things here, are all going to be very bright because the sun When you get a mirror image, it's because the sun is coming down straight and hitting this area and reflecting it back into the water. The light is what is reflecting that image onto the water. Now, with water, like I said, it's very fluid, so there's some movement, and you can see those movement lines in the water. So those areas where those movement lines are coming through, we are going to be dampening the color a little bit in those areas with some white. So even though it's a fairly still pond of water, it's going to have some refraction, some water movement, which is going to refract the light, which is going to change the colors slightly on the building. So we'll color it exactly the same, and then we will dampen those colors with white. Alrighty, just going to grab some colors here. Let's see, what colors do I want? I want 114. This one. And I want 92, and I want 21. So I want 21. All right, so we're going to start on the colors I use for gold. So when I do gold, I typically use 3 to 4 pencils. Now, the 4th pencil I will use if necessary. However, these 3 pencils are very important. So you have a light yellow brown, or you can use a bright yellow, depending upon what you're doing and depending upon the type of gold you're doing. If you're doing a really bright yellow gold ring, you might want to use a yellowish, a brighter yellow color. If you're doing an aged gold or an antique gold, you will want to use a lighter yellow brown and that sort of thing. So it'll give you a better dimension to your coloring if you decide before you start on how bright you want that gold to be. All right, so this one here is number 92, which is fried chicken out of the original, bone brown in the new, and Naples yellow. No, let's do light yellow. Yeah, dark Naples ochre in the Faber-Castells, which is 184. Sorry, I've got my arm across there because I've got the charts all over the place. So use 184 if you're doing Faber-Castells, and 92 if you're using the Brutfuner squares. And we're just going to base the whole area. So we're going to start here, and we're just very lightly basing that area. Now this also has some reflection in it from the clouds, so we know this is going to be very shiny. So that area there that is reflecting the cloud area, we're going to do a little bit lighter, and we'll add some white to that. We're still going to color it with the golden colors, and then we'll add white on top of it to reflect that cloud. Now we have to make a decision on what our background is going to be. Now if we want the background to be, say, sunrise or sunset, that will change the colors that you're going to use for your objects, because you're going to get a lot more of the color being changed because of the colors in the sky. So if we decide that we're just going to do this a blue sky, which is what I think we should do, just to make it a little bit more simple, and concentrate more on the reflection of the colors in the water, and that way it's not confusing. But if you do decide, and this is all 100% your own choices, you do not have to color it exactly the same way that I'm coloring it. The only thing that I do suggest is, that I do say is kind of necessary, is that you make sure that you mirror your images, or you mirror your colors on the other image. So if I'm coloring these gold, I'm not going to color these silver. You know what I mean? And that's pretty much the only thing that differs from coloring this normally, is you're coloring the image twice as you're coloring, so that your colors match up to the colors on the building and the sky, as well as the clouds and all that sort of thing. So if you do decide that you want to do this, say, as a sunset or a sunrise, where the colors in the sky are different, or even an alien world where the colors in the sky are different, just make sure that you mirror those colors in the water. All right, now we're coming in with number 21, which is Desert Camel Bell. Cognac. Those are the names in the Brute Funer squares. And you will want to use Burnt Sienna 283 for this color in the Faber-Castells. Now the lines here show me that this is more shadowed in this area, so we're going to bring that brown over a little bit further, that red brown. And like I said, we're going to come right over top of where the clouds are. We will add that color back in with we'll add the clouds back in with a white. Now, because this is a curved building, you're going to get that curvature by adding your shadows. I'm just putting a very thin shadow down here. Just going to extend it out just slightly. Like so. Then we're going to do the same thing down here. Oh, I didn't color that center one. Well, that was silly. Here I am, doing a mirror image, and I didn't even color the center. So just going over it and filling it in. Alright, then we're going to take our red brown here. And we're just going to follow the lines that the artist has given us a little bit. I'm not going to color, well, I will color that in a little bit of that darker color there. But a lot of this is going to be have a little bit of different tone to it because of the watercolors that we're going to be adding. So I'm just going through, making sure I've got pretty much the same information down here as we do up at the top. And of course the colors are going to be skewed a little because of the water movements and colors. Now this up here is not drawn the same as it is up there, so it's a little bit different on there, which is going to bother me, but it's all right. It's fine. We'll deal with it. We will take care of it. It's okay. But that's what happens when you're trying to draw something larger into a smaller space. All right, now we're going to come back through with the dark brown. So this one here is number 114, which is Envy in the originals, and Seal Brown. No, no, that's wrong. Sorry. Oh, they don't have a 114. Huh. That's interesting. Okay, so 114 in the new ones is Brandy Brown, but don't use that one. I want you to use number 115, Shaved Chocolate. So if you're using the new Brute Funers with the name on them, use 115 instead of 114. If you are using the Faber-Castells, use Burnt Umber or Van Dyke Brown. Van Dyke Brown. Use Van Dyke Brown. And we're coming in to those shadow areas with that deeper brown color where those contrasts are going to be. Now I avoided coloring water and mirrored images for a very long time because I don't draw. And when coloring something that's in front of water that you know should be mirrored is very, very intimidating, I guess is the best word for me, when you are not able to draw very well. So if you're intimidated by a mirrored image, we will go through on a different video and I will walk you through the best ways to deal with that fact that you aren't able to mirror the image yourself. All right, going to come back through with that 92. So come through with your lightest color and blend that in. And I want a little bit more of that red brown here. And we're just filling it in. So we're just going to touch on a few things um, on this building so that I can show you how I would do it. Then I'm going to leave you to doing it yourself, because that's what this is all about, is finding what works best for you. And like I said before, and I will say continually, what works for me may not work for you. And sometimes you just got to experiment a little bit and find what works best for you. All right. And then we're going to do the same thing down below. We're going to take our darker color. We're going to make sure that all the little areas are filled in. Come up through here. And then we're going to come back through with that lighter color, the lighter yellow brown. And we're just going to go right over top, blending all those colors together. I am using a lighter hand down here in the water because we're going to be adding some white to this area, so I don't want to take up that tooth. And having it loose does give you a little bit more effect when you put in the water. Okay, so there we have that part. Now we're going to reflect a little bit of the building itself. All right, so we're going to move on from the gold. Everything here is going to be gold. Now, what I am going to show you is, because this part here has the water movement over top of it, it's not going to reflect the cloud as much as this one here is. So we're going to take our Prismacolor or a very opaque white, and we're going to go over top of that with that opaque white. And we're just going to dull down that color, reflecting the cloud. So you can still see the gold under the area, but you can see the cloud reflected in that gold. Like so. And when we go over this area here, we're going to use the same technique. We're going to color the water in, and then we're going to go through these areas here with the white and put in those highlights. All right, so the building itself, we're going to start with a light gray. So we're going to start with number 96, I think. Yeah, that's it. It's a really light warm gray. I'm trying to decide if I want to do light or warm or cool gray. Let's stick to the warmer. No, let's do a cool gray. Do a cool gray. So number 26 is where we're going to start. And then we're going to go to 72, which I do believe I have in here. Yes. And then we'll use 73. All right, so 73 is Dark Fairy Tale and a Forged Iron for the Brute Puners. So both are 73, and it would be Cold Gray 5. Yeah, Cold Gray 6 in the Faber-Castells. 72 is shell crab or slate in the brute funers. So both are 72, and you'll want to use cold gray 3 in the brute funers. Use cold gray 2 for the brute funers for the next one, and number 26 on both the brute funer squares. So number 26, 72, and 73 if you're using your brute funers. The cold grays, 231, 231, 233, and 235 in your Faber-Castells. So we're going to start with number 26, and we're just going to fill in. I'm just going to do a base coloring, filling in all of the areas that the building is going to have the plaster and concrete. Like so. This part up here has the inside of the wall showing, just like we did on the bridge from the last coloring, where we see the inside of the arch. And basically we're just going to base color the entire building with the lightest gray, and then we'll come in with our shadow colors and our medium tones, and then we'll come back through and re-add our highlight color. Okay, just don't mind me end up concentrating a little bit while I'm trying to do small areas. And this is just the basic information that I've given you already on how to color anything and everything. Is you put down your lightest tone. Now different pencils will have different effects. So if you put down your lightest tone and you find that your darker tones don't like being on top of your lighter tone, or your darker tones are really heavy and you want that lighter tone to tone it down, you would use your dark areas first and then go over it with your lighter. I like to put down the lighter tone first sometimes, especially when I'm doing large areas, so that I can build that shadow on top of it and then blend that shadow in with the colored pencil afterwards. So it all depends upon your preference, how you color, how heavy-handed you are, that sort of thing. If you're really heavy-handed, I would suggest starting with your darker colors first and then move on to your lighter tones. Only because when you have a heavy hand, you end up taking up the tooth of the page very quickly with your first layer, and you may find that you don't have enough tooth on the page to use another layer. So do your darker colors first if you find that you use up the tooth of the page very quickly. And, just remember there is no right or wrong way of doing this. There's different ways that you can add color to a page. Find the way that is most comfortable to you and utilize that way. Now, I haven't covered the building here yet, and we will get to that, but we're going to avoid that in the mirrored image as well. I'm not going to cover any of this area here with this either, except for up in here. Because there's an archway there that's in front of, which is going to cast shadow on this area back here. And same with those. But I want to do those, I think, a different color. Maybe. Maybe. Because this one here is see-through, but these two here have doors in them, so I assume that they're not. So these here would be windows, these here would be doors. So we're going to color the wall above the door. With the gray. Not on the window. Don't color the window. All right, so now we're going to take our next color, which is number 72, which would be cold gray. 72. For you, I would say use cold gray 3 instead of the cold gray 4 that I told you to use. I think you should be using cold gray 2, cold gray 3, and cold gray 5 or 6, depending upon how dark you want it to be. If you want the building to be quite dark, use the other cold grays. But go through and see which ones work best for you in the vision that you have for your image. Because not everybody's coloring this image. However, I do hope you have found a reflective image that is going to require the information. If not, you'll have the information for next time. So I'm just going through, putting in that mid-shadow range. We're going to have a deeper shadow under here because that's pushed in a little. Same with up here. Like I said, if you are heavier handed, you're going to want to do these shadow areas first because of the necessity to allow yourself some tooth on the page. And if you're working directly out of the book like I am, the pages in this book do not have a huge amount of tooth. So working on them with a pencil that you could easily take up the tooth with is a little more difficult. So usually when I have that issue, I tend to start dark to light. And that way I have all of the colors on the page, even if it's only one layer of those colors. Come down through here. Do that area. And you probably can't see a darn thing I'm doing. Let me, I've got this sunlight coming in through the window, so let's turn that off so you can actually see what I'm doing. So sometimes you have to adjust the light so that there's not so much light reflecting on your page. I personally really like coloring in the natural light. It gives me a very good amount of information. It gives me true colors. So if I am worried that it's going to be too dark or too light, coloring in the natural light does give you a better visual of what it's going to look like when it's completed. And whether or not you're adding too much color or not enough color. So if it looks really washed out and you don't want it to look really washed out in natural light, then you may want to add more of that deeper color. All right. And then our last one is the dark gray. Sorry if my head's getting in the way. I've changed the position of my camera so that you guys don't end up seeing the back of my hand. However, I am finding that as I lean forward to see what I'm doing, you're seeing the top of my head or the bridge of my nose. So if I do get my face in the way, I apologize. Now we're going to come up under here. Now don't bring your lines out too far for your shadow, because you want to have some highlight there. You want to be able to show that the light is hitting that area and causing the reflection in the water. Almost done with the top part here. And I'm going to do the exact same thing in the water area. I'm just going to go a little bit lighter on the medium tone and a little bit darker on the darker tones. Now the reason for that is because we want it to show up a little bit more and have those shadows show up a little bit more in the water. have that depth. All right. We're going to come in through here. We're going to do this a little bit darker. Up in through here. Having that shadow show through there. All right, so there's our shadows. Like I said, we're going to do the mirror of it on the bottom area here. So I've got half of it covered, but we're going to cover the rest of it because I stopped midway for some reason. I don't know why. But we're going to do the same thing down here. So I've already got that area done. So we'll take a quick detour on it. Now remember this part here, up here, we haven't colored yet. So don't color that area yet because we're going to be adding a different color there. A lot of these buildings either have golden tops or bronze tops or copper tops. So if you're doing it with copper, the copper tones, remember that copper is one of those building products that does change with weather. So if you are doing copper, you will find that you will need to add a little bit of green to it to get it to look proper. Because copper, when it's aging, starts turning green. I love copper, aged copper. I love the teal look of it. It gets a lovely tealy green color, which is just beautiful. All right. And then we'll take our medium. And we've got the shadow from the edge here as well. So you've got to remember to put the shadows in the water that you need to have in the water. So we've got a shadow here for the edge of this area here. So make sure that you add that shadow in. Plus the shadows for the building, on the building as well. And I forgot to do the shadows up through here. I did them on the other side, but forgot to do them on this side. So make sure that you come in with your shadows. And like I said, I'm not going to be using as much of that medium gray as I am the darker gray, because those shadows are going to show a little bit deeper in the water. Because of the shadows of the reflection. So we're getting the underside of this on here because we're looking at it from here looking up. So you're getting that underside a little bit better than you do here. Which is going to be more shadowed than the top side of it here. But make sure that you still leave your highlight in there. Like so. Once we color this area, I just want to color at least half of it, and I'll do the water. The reason why I want to do at least half of it and do the water is because the next video, we're not going to be doing this page, because this page basically has all of the normal elements of what you will be doing. Well, not even the next video. We're not going to be completing this page on the videos because of the fact that, you know, it's got all the same elements as everything else. The only thing that we're really learning new here is how to color that mirrored image appropriately to give a proper mirror. And from what I have found in my own adventure is that you color it just exactly the same way. Just make sure that you're showing those depths a little bit more, because you're going to get a little bit deeper information. Oh, I did that wrong. Ah, there goes my eraser. That's fine. I'll use this one. And of course, you know, you make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. And that's what we have erasers for. And I could have used my smaller eraser, but that's all right. I'm going to take my lighter gray and we're going to refill that. And I am going to take my smaller eraser and fix the other side because I did the same thing there. I didn't want to have that amount of dark gray on that area. Because that area is going to be a different color. I apologize if I just wiggled the camera. Sometimes I get leaning forward and I need to lean forward to see what I'm doing sometimes, so it'll show a little wiggle because my head's in the way of the camera. Or the camera's in the way of my head, whichever way you want to put it. Now we've also got this side here, which has that shadow from the walkway on the edge. So we put the shadow in from the edge, and then we can darken that up just a little bit on the very inside of it with that darker gray. Just make sure you don't go over any areas that you haven't colored yet unless you're doing a dark to light. If you are doing a dark to light, then you don't need to worry about it. All right. And that's basically how we mirror the image. We put the image directly on the reflective surface and color it in. Now we've got to put in, and we just make sure that when we are doing the mirror that we use the same colors in the same areas. We use the same shadow lines, that sort of thing, so that it is a reflection of the object that you've already colored. Now, when you are coloring in water, you're going to have some attributes to the water that aren't going to allow you to have a exact color combination. So as this side here is quite clear, this side here is going to be slightly blurry because of the water on it. So don't expect a picture that is drawn as a mirror to have the depth and details that the main object has, because of the fact that there are going to be some distortions when you're coloring something with water in it. So we're going to take our watercolor. So we're going to take blue C, which is number 29, and number 38. So 29 and 38 in the originals. 38 sky blue and 29 Slew Aster in the Brutfuner English, and 146 Sky Blue, and 154. It's a little. 154 is a little green, but you can definitely use it, which is light cobalt blue. They don't really have a good match for number 38. 146 does match quite well to number 29. So use 146 and 154. 146 for the areas that I'm going to use 129 in, and 154 for the areas I'm going to use number 38 in. Just so that you have, when I go switching back and forth, you have that ability to know what I'm talking about. So we want 38 and we want 29. All right, so we're going to color some of the water. We're going to color the water in this area here. Now we are going to do a blue sky here, so that's going to reflect in the water. But I want to color the water over top of the areas that we've colored in, just so that you can see how that water is going to affect through here and that sort of thing. So we're going to take our lightest blue. Actually, we're going to take our medium blue. So this is number 30, Number 29? Yes. Make sure I have the right color in my hand. So this is number 29. So this is the starting color here. Now these colors are going to change as we get to more reflective surfaces. And we're not going to cover the whole area. We're just going to cover the area coming off of the shadow from the walkway. So the majority of the picture itself, the majority of this part, isn't going to have a lot of that watercolor coloring over top of it. It will have some around it from the sky, but because we're not actually going to be, because we're actually trying to mimic the upper part of this, we're not going to have a whole lot of those watercolors. We will have some in the shadow areas that are blocking out some of that light. So you're going to get that watercolor under there. We are going to have some white areas up through here, and that's what we have this lighter color for. And I will show you that in just a second here. Now you can come off of this one with just a little bit of that light blue, just to bring that watercolor just that little more into the picture. And I'm going to zoom you in just a little bit more so you can actually see what I'm doing, because that's quite a far ways out. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking that darker color, number 29, and I'm coming in to where that shadow is that I put in under the edge. And we're bringing that shadow a little bit of watercolor because the water is going to be darker there, and you're not going to have as good of a mirrored reflection there because that water is going to be darker. So I'm just going to bring that blue in, using that light blue just to blend the gray and the deeper blue together. Now both of these blues are quite light, so they're not going to show a ton of color, but they are going to show enough color that shows that there is water over top of the area that you just colored. Now, because we're going to be doing a blue sky here, I can show you what we're going to do with these areas here. So I'm going to color this area here. With that light blue. And I'm just very lightly covering the entire area here with the light blue, including the cloud, because we're going to be coming over it with that more opaque white. So this area here, I'm going to add some of that blue. Because this is actually showing the water itself in that area. This area here as well, but we're not going to get too far into that because that area down there is not colored. Same with here, because those areas aren't colored, we're not going to get into that area. This area up here, however, or because I have it upside down here, so we're going to turn you around. So these areas up here, coming down through here, I'm going to zoom you out just a little bit, and refocus you because that is not looking right. Oh, that's even worse. That's better. So I'm going to zoom you back out. So this is the water area. So up here is the main picture, and then we've got our water. Now the water area down here, I've got smuts on it, ignore that, has gone over top of that gold. So I've got some of that watercolor over top of the gold, which is giving it that water contrast. It's not a lot of color, but that's okay. We don't want it to be a ton of color. Now we're going to take our white. I prefer a Prisma white for this because it is quite opaque. Now if you use a poly white or the white from your boot pruners, you are going to find that it's a little bit more translucent and you will not have the same effect if you were using a deeper or a brighter white pencil. And I'm just going over the whole area, blending that blue into the page and dampening it down just enough to show that it's a ripple in the water. Now we're going to take our deeper blue and we're just going to come through the edge. Even though we've got the white down, what the white's going to do is it's going to take up a little bit more of the tooth of the area. So we're not going to get a really, really dark layer of color down. So as white does with everything, it dampens it down. So it dulls it out and lowers the pigmentation because the white pigment does show through it. Now if you want this to be a little bit lighter, you can definitely go back over it with the white and blend it in. I will be coming through with a gel pen and putting in white on the lines. So in those black lines there, I will use a white gel pen or a white paint pen, and I will darken or lighten those. I will turn those white after we get all of the sky and that sort of thing done, so that you can still see the movement of the water. Because the sky is going to be blues, you want to be able to see the water. So this area here that we're coloring now is very, very light, and we're going to maintain that lightness in most of the water area. So anywhere that these ripples are, I'm going to do that fairly light because the sky is going to be a deep sky blue. So having it lighter will show where the water movement is and show that there is water there. It's not just the sky. If that makes any sense at all. So I'm just putting in this little bit of water movement here, like so. So that's the way that that's going to look. And like I said, we're going to use a deeper blue in the rest of the areas. Like this area down here, I can color with this. I do have to put in the shadow area still. So I'm going to leave this little tiny bit here a little bit lighter so that I can put in that shadow. And then we're going to come out through here. And just going to show that movement. And then with the deeper blue, come into those deeper areas. Like so. And it gives you that feeling of water when you look at it. All right, guys, so that is the lesson for today. Mirrored images are not difficult to do. They do take a little bit of concentration to remember to duplicate what you've done up here to what you're doing down here. So I have always found the easiest way to do that is when I'm done coloring something up here, I color it the same way down here. And that way, when you have that mirror completed, it gives you a little bit more ability to just take care of the small things. Our biggest parts of the page are up here and down here, and those are going to be done pretty much the exact same colors. So you're not having to worry too much on making sure that these colors are different, because you don't want that. So you're not going to be picking out a whole lot of different colors to color both buildings. You are going to pick out the colors that you want for the building, the sky, and the dome and all that sort of thing. You want to pick out those colors, and then, like I said, you're going to transfer those colors down here onto the water. So don't feel intimidated with the fact that now you've got two buildings to color. Just remember that you're coloring the building in duplicate, so make sure that you utilize the same colors that you have used on the main building down here. You will find that the main building has more detail, and you will find that you have darker, deeper colors on the main building than you're going to have down here. So make sure that you put a lighter layer of those colors down here, because it is going to be a lighter reflection of the main building. So if you keep the main building in those dark, bold colors, you're going to find that when you do the reflection down here in a lighter color, it'll look proper. So if you want a visual of this type of thing, and you live near a pond or a lake or even a mud puddle that has settled and is completely still, and you hold something above it that has some sort of light reflection, and you can see the mirror image, you can definitely see that the picture on whatever or the object that you're holding over has deeper, brighter colors than the picture or the image in the water. So in the reflection in the water. That's the word I'm looking for. So, when you're coloring in the reflection, make sure that you dampen down your colors a little bit, dull them out a little bit. If you can't find that you can do that yourself with your hand, when you go through and you add your blues and that sort of thing, take a white and just whitewash the entire area that you've colored, and that will give you a damper look to the page, to the reflection. All right, guys. With that, I say thank you all very much for watching. We will continue on. I will continue off screen doing the rest of the building, and then when we come back, we will continue with the sky and that reflection, and how to incorporate the sky colors and the water colors to create that reflection and not create a disconnect between the fact that that is water and this is sky. All right, guys, thank you all very much for watching. I hope this hasn't confused the heck out of you and has been quite easy to follow, and that you are enjoying these little tutorial videos. Until next time, always remember to like, comment, and subscribe to any YouTube artist that you enjoy. And of course, always remember to relax, color, and stay safe, everyone. Until next time, bye bye for now.